Well, Kevin, when you and I had the idea for this show, we had one simple idea, which was to create parasocial relationships with hundreds of thousands of people and then monetize those.
Is that what we decided?
But somewhere along the way, we had a second idea, which is what if we could help people? And recently, an email came into our servers here at the hard fork operation, and I thought this might actually be a chance to do some good.
Yes.
And it came to us from someone named Winston from Oakland, California, nearby. And he writes, "Hi, Kevin and Casey. Big fan of the show. I'm wondering which social network I should pay attention to. I want to be engaged in the cultural discourse, but not constantly fed attention-grabbing clickbait. What social networks are you guys on, and what do you recommend for someone who wants to have a thoughtful, engaging, and positive relationship with social media? Thanks." And I guess the first thing to say is that's not possible. But we do think that there are some interesting places on social media, places where you can learn some things, maybe have some good conversations. My expectation is they will probably stress you out, and you will probably want to put them away for long periods of time. But if it's been a long time since you've rethought your relationship with social media, Kevin, it does feel like in the aftermath of this election, we're seeing a bit of realignment.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of texts from friends, acquaintances, people in my life basically asking the same question Winston is asking. I think people have this sense that the places they're spending their time right now, especially X, as it continues to change under Elon Musk, are not the best places where they could be spending their time. But it's a big deal to invest time and energy into building a presence on a new app or a new social network. And so I think people are just a little bit confused, and maybe we can offer them a path through the wilderness.
I think we can. Look, you and I both really enjoy using social networks. Both you and I have written a lot about them over the years, and we have been taking a close look at everything that is happening in that
I want to
sphere
correct you
recently.
there.
Yeah.
I would not say that I enjoy using social networks.
Okay.
I say there are periods where I have good experiences, and then there are periods where I do it out of a sense of dutiful obligation and self-preservation.
And I actually do enjoy using them because I'm a fiend.
Well, good for you.
So with that in mind, let us take a stroll through the current state of the art, Kevin. And I think we should focus in particular on the text-based social platforms because this is where we're seeing the most change to the social media landscape. These are the platforms that people might be least familiar with and that are still changing a lot day to day as they build out their user bases and figure out their cultural footing. And here's how we're going to do it. We're going to tell you a little bit about the network, who's on it, what the vibe is there, and some reasons why you might want to check it out.
Yeah, we're not going to tell you which ones you should be on because that's a personal decision. We'll give you sort of a lay of the land, and you can make your own decisions.
All right, well, let's dive right into it. And let's maybe start with Threads, Kevin. So Adam Mosseri, who runs both Instagram and Threads, announced earlier this month that Threads had crossed 275 million monthly active users. That is up from 200 million in August. And Mark Zuckerberg says they're signing up 1 million people a day. So this is a place where, frankly, I have been spending most of my time in social networking, and I would love to tell you a couple things about it.
Yeah, so tell us about Threads.
So let's talk about who is there. You will find stars like Simone Biles and Sarah Jessica Parker.
Sarah Jessica Parker?
Did I say Sarah Jessica Parker?
You sure did.
I like that so much. That's what I'm going to call her now.
Sarah Jessica Parker?
Yes. So you'll find stars like Simone Biles and Sarah Jessica Parker. You'll find a lot of folks who have big followings on Instagram who want to give more text-based social networking a shot, so the sort of creators and influencers. You will find a lot of reporters there. It's kind of how I follow the tech news day to day and see what the conversations are about it. And you'll also see a huge international community from countries including Brazil, Indonesia, and Vietnam. But that's who's on Threads.
Yeah, and what would you say the vibe of Threads is for someone who has not spent a lot of time there?
So I think it is candidly still trying to find its vibe. Friend of the podcast, Max Reed, has described it as the gas leak social network, which is sort of referring to the fact that if there is a gas leak in your house, you might sort of start hallucinating or behaving strangely. And this comes from the fact that some people, when they log onto Threads, just find themselves confronted with a lot of people who are just telling what seem to be pretty lengthy, random stories about their lives, having various problems. So it's essentially not clear what people are supposed to be doing there. I find reporters sharing articles and discussing current events, but many reporters will tell you that the stories that they share there have their reach throttled because the thread's recommendation algorithms consider them too political and sort of restrict their reach. So it's kind of a melange of things, but I will say that if you are somebody who just wants to use something that is a lot like Twitter to get your tech news, I do find that Threads works very well for me.
Yeah, I would describe Threads as a great social network for you if you want to learn who won the election 17 hours late. Like it is so much like what Twitter used to be in terms of the features and the short length of the messages and sort of the general appearance of the platform. But it is chosen intentionally, and Meta has chosen intentionally to de-emphasize news, especially breaking news on the platform. And so as a result, you just see a lot of times things that are old, that are stale. It's sort of missing the sort of beating heart of current events that used to be at the core of what old Twitter was.
Yeah, particularly if you were using Threads on your phone, it defaults you to this For You page, which you can think of as a kind of TikTok for text. The Threads algorithm goes out, it tries to pick posts it thinks you might be interested in, and as you just mentioned, Kevin, it is not always selecting for the most recent things. And so, yes, one of the main criticisms of Threads over the past year has been the stuff here feels really old. I will say if that's a problem for you, you can set up different columns for Threads, including just a feed of the people you are following, and that feed will update in real time, showing you all of the latest things that people have posted. So that is the primary way that I use Threads, and that's the way that I get around the recency problem.
Yeah, and I am less optimistic about Threads because I think that the company that is running Threads, Meta, is just not at all aware of what actually made the old Twitter so good, which was that it did have this kind of beating heart of being able to figure out what was happening in the world before it appeared anywhere else. And news is not something that they have emphasized. In fact, it's something that they've sort of walked away from. They don't want politics on there, whatever that means. And I think that is just a fatal flaw for any app that is attempting to educate people and show them what is happening in the world around them.
All right. Well, for an app that has a fatal flaw, it seems interesting that 275 million people are using it every month.
Okay, how many of those people just clicked on something by accident while scrolling Instagram?
Well,
that's what I want to know.
If they were on your profile, they definitely clicked on it by accident. Let's talk about Bluesky. So Bluesky is another decentralized social network. We have had the CEO of Bluesky, Jay Graber, on the show. And Bluesky has had a real moment after the election. It confirmed that it gained more than 1 million new users in the past week and now has 15 million users globally. So who's there? I would say you could find leftists, resistance libs, artists, sex workers, journalists, and I'll say it, some of the most annoying people who ever had Twitter accounts. You know those people who, like, no matter what Trump had done, they would immediately have like a 70-part thread about it on Twitter?
Yes.
All those people have Bluesky accounts now.
Yeah, I mean, I have not spent that much time on Bluesky since setting up an account there. I think I'm going to start again, but, you know, one problem for any social network is you get there, you set up an account, and it's like, okay, well, who do I follow? And how do I make sure that I'm following all the right people? And Bluesky has this new thing, starter packs, which is basically like you can have a group of people that are all sort of connected thematically. Maybe you have a politician starter pack or a tech journalist starter pack or an artist starter pack, and those are sort of a bunch of accounts that you can just follow all at once by clicking one button.
Yeah, it makes it easy to set up your network. So what's the vibe? I would say if you want to learn about current events entirely through people criticizing how the New York Times covered them, Bluesky can be a really good way to do that.
This is really a theme of a lot of the social networks today.
I would say the vibe is extremely horny art and not safe for work content. The furries are having a big moment over on Bluesky.
Are they?
Yeah, and shit posting in general is just kind of a core value of the Bluesky community. Do you know I've been canceled on Bluesky twice?
For what?
Once I criticized liberals for spreading misinformation about J.D. Vance by saying he'd borked a couch. And two, I had a take about Elon Musk and Brazil that was not received well in Brazil.
Wow.
Now, the advantage of that was that most of the insults that came to me were in Portuguese, which is a language I don't understand. But let's just say I understood enough to know that I'm not welcome in certain parts of Rio de Janeiro. Now, some other interesting things about Bluesky. It's also built on a decentralized protocol, but it is a different protocol than Threads and Mastodon. Theirs is called AT. And I have to say, so far, it seems like it is enabling a lot more creativity than ActivityPub recently. You mentioned the starter packs, which are cool. It also has a way for you to bring in your own recommendation algorithm. So if you don't like the kind of like the default feed, you can bring in your own. If you don't like,
what does that mean? Like, what's an algorithm that I could bring in on Bluesky?
You could say, I want you to show me more content about science, and the algorithm will work to find you more content in that vein. But you can also just have custom feeds. So, you know, like on Threads, you're limited to the feed of people you follow and the feed of whatever Threads thinks you might want to look at. On Bluesky, you can say, I want a feed of just all the most popular Bluesky posts from over the past day. Or I want a feed of posts that have been popular with the people I follow on Bluesky. And you can get much more sort of granular and weird. And so of all of these networks, Bluesky is the most customizable. Now, that also means that it kind of has the steepest learning curve. You don't need to do any of that stuff to use Bluesky, but I would argue that to get the best experience, you do. But it speaks to the creativity that is possible because the way they have built their network. And I think it is super cool.
And my understanding is that Bluesky, which had this sort of invitation system early in its life, is now open to anyone. You can just go create an account, right? You don't have to get an invite from someone.
Yes, absolutely. And something that the reporters are loving about it in particular is that unlike X and Threads, there is just truly no restriction on sharing news. If you're a reporter and you're in a story and it's about politics and you post it, no one at Bluesky is going to try to reduce the reach of that post or make it take longer for the web page to load like Elon Musk does.
Yeah, it seems like the only sort of major text-based social network that does not actively hate the blue link.
Yeah.
And is trying to like remove that from the server.
Yeah, and of course that is a core way that people used Twitter, was to see what was happening in the news, and Bluesky is quite happy to let that happen. Threads has been much more skeptical of that. So that is a core difference between these two. And if really all you are looking for, Winston, is what network should I use to replace Twitter? This is, I think, the question you have to ask yourself is, do I want a fire hose of news, or do I want something that is going to be much more cautious about what news it shows me? So, who should check out Bluesky? Well, I would say if you hate capitalism, you're going to love Bluesky. Comes up a lot over there. If you love the news, you're going to love Bluesky. If you are a sort of protocol nerd who just likes to build stuff, or if you're horny, I think you could have a great experience browsing the Bluesky app, Kevin.
Well, I don't know any horny socialists, but if I do meet some, I'll direct them over there.
Let's move on and talk briefly about Mastodon. Mastodon is a smaller network, but in a way kicked off this current realignment that we're seeing, because while it was created several years ago, it has really ramped up after Twitter collapsed and was replaced with X. It had 3.5 million users in November 2022, and it has almost 9 million this month. So who is there? I would say IT administrators, college professors who study arcane subjects, and bots. Those are sort of three of the big categories I've seen. Kevin, how about you?
I haven't spent much time on Mastodon, but it's in the times that I have gone over there, it's been pretty clear this is a network for people who love being yelled at by Linux administrators.
Yes, if you ask me to describe the vibe of Mastodon, I would say, imagine a place where every reply starts with "actually." And that's kind of Mastodon in a nutshell. So I would check out Mastodon if you want to sort of host your own federated server and send pedantic replies to well-meaning people who were just trying to share an opinion about something.
Now, I should say, I want to defend these social networks from some of the slander being perpetrated against them on this podcast. Mm-hmm. I think all of these networks have pockets of good in them, right? Like it is possible to tweak your feed, to tweak your following list, to really spend the time setting yourself up on these networks so that you're seeing more of what you want and less of what you don't want. But that is true of any social network.
You're saying that my experience is not representative of all other people's experience?
That is what I'm saying.
That's highly offensive to me. Now, let's talk about the one other text-based network that some people might be considering, Kevin, and that is, of course, X, formerly Twitter.
Yes.
Yeah. So who's
still
there?
The biggest, by the way.
But who is there? Well, there are a few folks. For example, Elon Musk. People who love Elon musk, people who worship Elon Musk, and people who work for Elon Musk or hope to work for Elon Musk someday. And in addition to that, there are some reporters.
there's a lot more happening on
What
X
else
than
is
this.
happening?
So, for example, all of AI Twitter or
That's
AI
true.
X is still there. It's still a very robust and popular sub-community. There are also lots of other groups of hobbyists and people working in specialized fields who are on X. So I know that you are grinding an axe here, and that's fine.
I'm
But
grinding an X here.
but I also want to say, like, one of the narratives that a lot of people, I think, have been wishfully hoping would come true is that X is a dying ghost town. And I think we have seen just how untrue that is. It may be changing, it may be morphing. You certainly see more right-wing political content on there than you would have in the old days of Twitter. But I think this sort of wishful thinking among especially many liberals that X is dying off or would no longer be relevant very soon, we have just not seen a lot of evidence for
Well,
that.
I think it is dying. I don't think it's a ghost town yet, but I think it is well on its way. So what is the vibe on X these days? I would say it's kind of gloating about the election results. So if you want to read a bunch of posts by people who are excited about everything that is about to happen in America, this is a great time to check out X.
We get it.
All right.
Oh, well, no, I have one more question for you, Casey, which is, like, there's been a lot of speculation about what X will become during the Trump administration, whether it just sort of becomes the sort of unofficial media arm of the Trump government, whether it sort of draws back toward the center now that Elon Musk has accomplished his goal of getting Donald Trump elected. Like, what do you think the future of X looks like under the Trump administration?
You know, I read a great post that sort of made a prediction about this on Bluesky today, Kevin, and it reads like this. This is from Lauren at rotating-sandwiches.com. Another cool thing about Bluesky, you can bring your own custom domain into it. So anyway, Lauren says, one day you're going to see Elon posting, "We just cut $200 million going to bull weevil outbreak prevention," to cry laugh emojis. And then a couple months later, the entire Midwest will be decimated by the first mass bull weevil outbreak since 1884. So that's what I think you can expect from X. There's going to be a lot of pronouncements from Elon about how he and his cronies are reshaping the federal government. I think it's going to feel like state media. It's going to be a sort of 24/7 Trump rally. And yeah, that's kind of what I expect. What do you think?
So I think that's certainly possible, but I do wonder if liberals, if people who are opposed to Elon Musk have made a mistake by migrating off of X, because some of the reason that you might be seeing more right-wing content on X is because the knobs are being tuned in such a way that promotes that content artificially. But some of it is just that a lot of people who are creating other types of content have left the platform. And so now, if you are a person who forms your view of the world or your view of politics or your view of current events by seeing what's going on X, you might get an artificially sort of right-wing seeming view because that is sort of the user base that is most active there. And I'm starting to wonder if maybe it was a mistake strategically for Democrats to sort of stop investing in that platform and start going elsewhere. What do you think?
I think that is a total trap. I think, if you think that the election's outcome would have been different if liberals had just stayed and fought on Twitter, I truly do not believe that is the case. I think that so much of the power that X continues to have is the folks who are telling themselves, oh, no, I am there. I am fighting the good fight. But every day you look around and you have fewer and fewer allies around you, and you realize the people that you are shouting at, you are not actually persuading them. What you are is you're providing a fig leaf that lets other people justify staying there because they're like, well, no, there's still like a few of these other accounts. But in reality, this thing has just become a one-way partisan broadcast service.
Well, I think we've gotten a little far away from the prompt here, which was about what social networks people should be on. But do you think there's anyone who should be on X, Casey?
Yeah, Trump voters.
No liberals?
No.
No journalists?
No.
No policymakers?
No.
What about people who just have a sort of an interest in knowing what the people with Donald Trump's ear are thinking and saying?
Yeah, that's actually why I still have an account, just to like log in and see.
Yeah.
If you want to see what other people are saying, that's fine. I don't know what your expected value would be from participating in Twitter at this moment in 2024. So, Winston, we hope that helped you think through.
No, that absolutely did not help
Why
Winston.
was that not helpful?
We just gave Winston a laundry list of the pros and cons and jokes about various social media apps. But I want to actually try in earnest to answer the question that we received from our dear listener here.
Yeah.
Which is like, without knowing more about Winston and what he uses social media for and is trying to get out of a social media experience, it is hard to say with any precision which social network or social networks Winston should be using. But say that you are just an average consumer of social media. Maybe you want to see some jokes. Maybe you want to learn a little bit more about a topic you're interested in. Maybe you want to hear what people in your profession are doing. Maybe you just want to catch up on a little bit of news.
Yeah.
Sort of the all-purpose social media use case. What today, in 2024, what is the place, the social network, the app that gives people the best chance of getting all of that in one place?
Well, here's the unsatisfying answer. I don't know that you can consistently find all of that in one place. I think the good stuff is scattered across every single network that we just talked about. And if you want to find all of the good stuff, you're going to have to spend a lot of time browsing. If somebody came to me and they said, I have a little bit of time for social media, where should I spend it? I think the answer is that most people, if you just sort of look at like how people are voting with their feet, they spend most of their time on TikTok and Instagram. Okay, so that would actually be my default suggestion. Most people don't want to post. Most people don't want to fight with strangers in the comments. Most people just want a little bit of entertainment while they are, you know, at the dentist's office waiting for the dentist to, you know, come get them. So that's sort of what I would say. But I think the hard fork listener, Kevin, is a little bit more sophisticated and a little bit more refined. I think they are very interested in the future. They want to see the debates that people are having about AI, about what stories are in the news right now. What is the conversation around those stories right now? And if you are one of those kinds of people, I would say get on Threads, get on Bluesky, and see which one you like better. But you will probably wind up having a pretty decent experience either way.
Yeah. I'm hungry for like something that just right now I feel like I spend about 10% of my day just like shuttling between various apps. The thing that I actually want is the one app to unite them all, right? The thing that will sort of use AI or something to sort of pick out the best 5% of posts from Threads, from Bluesky, from X, from Instagram, and show them all to me on one beautiful interface. And how likely, Casey, would you say it is that something like that will be developed?
Well, this actually is one of the cool things about these decentralized federated networks is that you can download a Mastodon client and use it to browse threads. At the moment, the activity pub protocol that Mastodon is based on is not compatible with the AT protocol that Bluesky runs on, but people are talking about potentially building a bridge that would let those two protocols speak together. And I think whatever else you think about, you know, this state of social media, to me, this remains a very exciting thing where in the future, it will not be one giant monolithic company in control of a social network. It looks like it very well may be different social networks talking to each other over protocols. And if and when that comes to pass, you will be able to read Threads and Bluesky in the same place. And that could actually be pretty cool.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Winston, we hope that helped. And if it didn't, well, it was free advice. You get what you paid for.
You paid for.
You get what you paid for.
Yep.
Hey, that's the end of this clip. If you liked what you saw, head on over to our page and subscribe, and you can get the full podcast. We do a show like this almost every week on tech and the future. Head on over there now and subscribe.